What's up, Netflix fans? Kaos is a contemporary retelling of some Greek mythology starring Jeff Goldblum. A lot of stuff happened. Let's discuss.
Mortals, I made you. And this is how you repay me.
All right, Zeus is freaking out a little bit because on Earth, 6 humans, unaware of their importance and their connection to each other, learn that they are component parts of an ancient prophecy. There's a secret going on with the gods. They're trying to uncover that secret, although at first, they don't even realize how important they actually are. And the world that we are living in here is a strange one, it's a crazy one, but admittedly, after the first episode, it was an interesting one because there are so many things that make this kind of stand out from the crowd, but at the same time, it does feel kind of familiar. And let's start with Jeff Goldblum. Now, Austin, is he going outside of that box, doing something different? Is his version of Zeus not what we expect it to be? No, it's Jeff Goldblum. He's great at it, and I love it. But admittedly, he's not doing something different here. Now, that brings the entertainment factor up because what Zeus is going through here, there is a plot to overtake him. So he's a little paranoid. He's still eccentric. He's still, he has those quirks that you expect Goldblum to bring. But there's something going on in that first episode. You're like, something is not right. He has all of the power in the world, but he knows there's a chance that could come to an end because of what's going on in the background here. He has a lot of children, a lot of people he's trying to reach out to. No one wants to talk to him. Was he a jerk this whole time, Zeus? What are you doing? And everyone above and below, we also have Hades. And what's going on in Hades, first of all, stylistically is awesome. We'll discuss that. But second of all, it's a little chaotic down here. It's a little chaotic up there. And so the unrest down below and up high is causing a little bit of chaos to where Odin's on high alert. Hades is like, what's happening?
I don't know.
And this prophecy that we're dealing with is fascinating because it puts a lot of the gods on high alert. Some of them are just kind of nervous, and there's a sense of unrest that every time we go up and see what's going on, it's a little chaotic. But you also have those like Hera who are just more normal about the entire thing. Now, in the middle are the humans, and the humans are given this destiny, and the way this fantastical version of Earth is handled is fascinating because of the way that they look up to and treat gods, but also those that are very opposed to that. So we're dealing with themes that obviously hit on religion here and how people handle being controlled in this way, but also what if you just knew exactly what was going on? Would you treat these gods like celebrities, or would there be a little pushback by some people? And we get to see all aspects, all routes of what would come from living in a world like this, which I thought was really fascinating. And then you have those who are given this destiny, this prophecy, if you will. They don't realize they're a part of it. All of a sudden, we are. So how do we go about this? And is what we are given, is this actually a thing? And so spending time in these worlds, getting to know this plethora of characters. There are a lot of characters in this show, thus a lot of plot points that we're trying to hit on. But the first few, and I mean probably 4 episodes, are essentially there to show us exactly what's going on, who these numerous characters are, the world that we are living in, and it's a lot of buildup. But it's not just buildup coming from one direction, it's buildup coming from about 7 different directions and numerous characters. And now getting to know these characters, for one, was interesting. Not all of them are interesting, but David Thewlis as Hades, that's awesome casting. He's fantastic. Poseidon was another character that I enjoyed. Cliff Curtis does an awesome job, and the way that characters like Poseidon and Hades and obviously Zeus are handling the out-of-control nature of those that they are kind of looking down upon and how they process these emotions, which is not something you think of looking into with Greek gods, but it's a nice, somewhat emotional aspect of the show that was fascinating on paper. The execution with those characters, really good. But again, we're bringing so much to the table here at times. This show's a little too sporadic. and often doesn't really know what it's trying to do or say. Now, before I dive too deep into that, I want to talk about the distinctions visually and stylistically between Mount Olympus and Earth and then Hades. They do a nice job of changing it up every time we're in a different location. That way, when we are sporadically cutting from one location to another, we kind of know where we are. We know that by the characters, but again, we're just adding support to that. Hades was the best. We lose all color. We're black and white. It's supposed to be this dark and desolate place. Also, what they're dealing with is a lot less happy. I mean, when the chaos is happening, see what I did there? He said it! He said it! Of course, it's not going to be happy, but it's Hades' world. We're just living in it. It's dark and desolate. Earth seems normal, stylistically, and then when we go up top to Mount Olympus, everything becomes a lot more bright and vivid. And so I really appreciated the distinction there because obviously we know when we're switching who the characters are, but if we're a little lost there, we at least understand stylistically where we would be. Now again, we're jumping around a lot. There's so many things to deal with, so many characters that serve significance to the plot, and there are points where the show just kind of loses its way because it's trying to present too much to us, as well as give us a lot of exposition. And yes, we're going to need some of that in the first few episodes, but they are full of exposition-filled scenes. Instead of showing us how the characters are feeling or what they're trying to do, they're just telling us, and that became a little more lazy as the show went, because it got more interesting on paper, but we kept pulling away from that because they're just trying to hit on so many things at once. And while stylistically it's interesting and there are moments where the visuals are really good, there are other moments where I'm like, this looks like other shows that I've seen on Netflix. And I was doing the same thing with The Acolyte a month ago. I'm like, this just feels like all of the Star Wars show that we're getting. Nothing that allows it to stand apart. Now, this has those things, like I mentioned, but there are points where it just feels so much like other Netflix shows, and the visual effects may not be the best that we've ever seen. And I assume the budget was pretty big for this one, considering it stars Jeff Goldblum. And so I wish they could have done a little more in that department. And they'll occasionally tiptoe around those fascinating ideas and bring up and have a couple of discussions. But throughout the show, they're way more focused on showing all of these things happening, dealing with the prophecy, thus losing their focus just a little bit. And by the time you get to the end, when it finally ramps up, we are left on a massive cliffhanger. Now that is pretty cool in its own way, but at the same time, I don't know if this show's going to get a season 2. And if it doesn't get a season 2, I look back at what I saw in season 1 and I'm like, really? Nothing major got accomplished here, because we're still left with a lot of the things we were working for throughout season 1. And so we didn't really accomplish a lot. We're on a big cliffhanger here waiting for season 2. Are we even going to get that? Now, if we do, okay, they can answer a lot of those questions. But if we don't, we're in trouble. At least those who got really invested in the show, you may be in trouble.
You're in trouble.
There are things about this show that work. There are things about the show that are interesting. Characters, of course, performances, even Jeff Goldblum, who isn't going outside of his wheelhouse, but he is really entertaining on screen. The comedy doesn't always work. They try to be cheeky at points and, almost breaking the fourth wall type of thing, being very self-aware in a way, but it doesn't always land, and those characters don't always land. And there's a love triangle, and I get it in a Netflix show. You're going to have stuff like that consistently, and we're dealing with gods and humans in that era. Not really, but sort of. And so love is a big part of that. But it just became obvious and familiar after a while, and there were so many more interesting things that they could have been focusing on as opposed to a love triangle. And I'm just sitting here like, I've seen that in every Netflix show and every Netflix movie. And so again, I think there's a lot to like about Chaos, absolutely. But my fear is those who are wanting something that's dealing with the more interesting aspects of Greek mythology, you may not get what you want. You may not love the blend between our reality and this fake reality, even though the idea of this fake reality is fascinating. And stylistically, they do a nice job of taking us from location to location, but they don't do a great job of distinguishing the characters from each other. Some aspects look great, some aspects look cheap. So a little up and down on Chaos. I would love to know your thoughts down below. Did you enjoy this as a whole? And were you sucked in to this journey? It's an interesting world. It's one that we don't often get to explore in a TV show, and that's a pretty big deal. Apologies, my face is broken out. I have hand, foot, and mouth disease, so that's great. Also, drop a like if you enjoyed this video. While Kaos occasionally swings for the fences with its numerous ideas, many of them feel a bit too safe. Conceptually, this world and the separation of realms is fascinating, but it isn't always handled with care. Goldblum delivers, David Thewlis steals the show, and the various characters are intriguing. The end result is a mixed bag, but one that has a path to improve with an additional season that answers some of these questions. Will we get that? I don't know, but it's an interesting thought. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it big time. What are you watching on Netflix?